To our face politician, Director of Client Partnership here at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today we have aging advisor Janice Goldmintz to talk about how adult children can approach the conversation of end-of-life care with their aging parents. Hey, Janice, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well today. Before we start, can you just kind of talk a little bit about yourself and how you got to be doing this stuff?
Sure. So my background is in gerontology. I have a master's of science, and gerontology is just the study of aging. And I think that I got probably just as much information from being the adult child of an aging parents, and that practical journey that I was on with my mom and now on with my dad. So I bring academic and personal experience to it. And I came to it because I remember my grandmother, who was just about my age, which is kind of scary to think about this, who was already in a nursing home. And this nursing home environment was so not nice. It's the only way I can put it. These people were warehoused. They were sitting in their wheelchairs around a nurse's desk. And I thought, I don't want my parents to ever go through that. So I think that was always in the back of my mind, that there was something that I wanted to be able to do. And I was brought to this path, and I really love advocating for our older adults.
I love it. And, I would like to say, oh, this is going to be fun, but maybe not necessarily, because like you said, this could be a tough conversation. I have to let you know that last night I was talking with my wife about doing the topic. And, we kind of looked at each other and went, well, we're dreading this for us. So, I can really understand the reluctance. But can you give us some insight, just a little furthermore, as to, why these family discussions don't happen?
Well, there's a couple of things. If you look at it on the side of the children, they're watching their parents who have been their parents all their life that may be experiencing challenges. And that's hard to watch. We think our parents are going to live forever and they're invincible. And then this kind of reality starts to set in, and you have to start looking and going, wow, I see things happening. What is that going to mean to them? What is it going to mean to me? So I think on the kids' side, that is the beginnings of the hesitation. Oh, I don't want to acknowledge it, or no, they're okay, or however that pans out. And then on the parents' side, they have the opposite. Well, I've been the parent all these years. I have to continue on in my parental role. I don't want to ask for help from my kids. I don't want to acknowledge that role may reverse or change. And I don't want to burden my children with, anything that might be happening. So it's like neither one wants to burden the other or talk about it, because people think if you talk about it, it's going to make it more real. And that's not the truth of it.
Yeah. But there are challenges, aren't there? I'm just,
Yes.
Like for the children, the one I just think of off the top of my head is where the parent is and where the kid is. They may not even be in the same city. I mean, there's got to be various challenges that they have to kind of figure through.
Yeah. So that definitely is one of them. You may have 2 or 3 children. One lives in the same location as the parents and the other ones don't. So how do you navigate who does what? Because you don't want the child that is in the same vicinity to feel like, oh, I have all of the burden, and my siblings are, almost lucky they don't have to do this. Or you have the ones that live out of town that feel guilty that they're not there to help. So there's all of that dynamic. Then if you're the only child, you may feel like it's all on you. Or if you have siblings and one sibling says, well, mom and dad, should live with one of us. No. I think they should go to a retirement residence. No. We'll bring help in, or we'll do this or that or the other. So getting family accord for what you want to have planned for the future can be also very challenging if you have many different opinions about what to do.
Oh, yeah. I know we had some friends who were sort of thinking they were being forced into this situation, and they had kids.
Right.
And it was like, kind of, I'm in the middle now of raising my own kids, and now I got my parents, and that can
Yeah.
be a struggle.
Yep. And if you think about the age that people are having children, if you had your children in your late 30s, it's likely that your kids may be high school age, maybe university age, and then you've got aging parents. You're still in their lives. You're still part of what's going on with your kids. You want to have hands-on, but now you've got this other element of your parents needing you, and where do you go first, and who do you take care of first? And it's going to become more challenging because people did have kids later, and people are living longer. So that sandwich generation is going
Yeah,
to definitely be part of could be part of your experience.
it could be cultural. I mean, there could be,
Yeah, that for sure. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
So when to talk?
Hmm.
Again, as as kind of talking, we were talking before, well, I'm in my 60s. I mean, I don't
Yep.
have to do that, do I? And so it's like,
Yes.
when is
So
that time? When do you start wanting to bring it up?
I think, 60s is a really good age because for most of us, and I'm in my 60s, are healthy. And I think that when we're healthy is the time to have it, to say, hey, you know what? Everything's great now, but just if something should happen, I want you to be aware. I want to have my powers of attorney selected so that I can do that and ask around. Is that okay? Would you like to do that? Is that okay with you? That gives you lots of time to do that. It gives you lots of time to think about what you might want for yourself when you're older. It might be time to think about, hey, these are the investments I have. This is the insurances I have or I don't have. This is how I would like you to take my resources and use them. Because I think you can have those conversations in a sort of non-threatening kind of a format because everything's good and you can get everything on paper, have a file or whatever it is that you need. And as long as people know where that is. It gives a chance for siblings to sit down with each other if they want, aside from their parents, to say, wow, this is what I'm capable of doing today. We can look at it again in 5 years and another 5 years, but at least we have a plan in place for today, because who knows? Nobody knows. So I think that there's no perfect time, but I think when people are healthy is the best time to start, because then it also gives an opening for when things are not, maybe, things are starting to happen, challenges. You've already got a background and format, and you go, okay, yeah, I know, if something happens drastic and I need to know, would my parent want resuscitation and ventilation? Oh, I know. Here it is. Here's the living will. Here's the power of attorney. I've got it. We're good to go. So
Yeah,
I think that this is a good age.
that makes total sense. It's like, you don't plan for your kids' college education as
Yeah.
you're taking them to college.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've always told our kids to, plan ahead. Don't, look for all your stuff. Make sure you've got your phone and your ID and your this before you go to the airport. I mean, so sort of, you got to pre-plan. But do you need everyone there? I mean,
Do you need everyone there? I would say that the more people who are the key players, the better. And it doesn't necessarily have to only be your children. It can be your grandchildren. It can be friends of the family. It can be, what if you don't have children and you want to have somebody who might be involved in your care? It could be friends. It could be anybody who you think you would want to depend on in the case where you can't speak for yourself.
Right.
So, if you have a child that doesn't want to be part of the conversation, you have to honor that too. You can't force somebody to the table because you're not going to get the answers that you want. But I do believe that the more key players that you get that are hearing it together, that are strategizing together, that are putting in their thoughts, the better the plan is going to be and the easier for it to be executed.
If if I were to come to you and say something like, I want to start this conversation either with my parents, or I come to you and I say, I want to start this conversation with my kids. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, are there kind of ways you can start that discussion from either side?
I think so. I think that it's if your goal, which should be no matter who you are, your goal is the highest quality of life for everybody. So it's not just the kids saying, well, I'm going to tell you what to do and that's what we're going to do, or the parents saying, this is what we're going to do. It's an opportunity to sit down as a family. I'm just going to call it a family at this point, to say, hey, you know what, I've been thinking about this. And I know, and acknowledging in the beginning, I know this isn't going to be the most comfortable or uplifting of conversations, but let's do it now. Let's do it when we all are on the same page. We all can have an input. And this doesn't have to be a one and done. We can take little chunks, however you're comfortable, and do it that way. But I think let's start this conversation and see where we're at. Because that's the starting point, is to say, here's where we are today. Yeah. I'm healthy, I'm good, everything's great. I've got, my life is going along great and swimmingly, but who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So let's have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of leads into, what do we talk about? There's so many, there's financial stuff, there's health stuff, there's just sort of living arrangement stuff. There's just so many things you can talk about. What do we talk about in this conversation? What do we mean by, preparing aging and end of life care?
So I would say that the first thing is to have a file set up for the parents that has the lawyers, and it's the present day. It can change over time, but at least you have today's, the lawyer, the accountant, the banking information, the investments, the safety deposit boxes, where's my will, whatever you have, properties that you have deeds to, just so that everything is centralized and everybody knows that if something should happen, I can go and grab this file or this stick or whatever. And I'm going to actually say it should be a file, because technology is changing. So if you had something on a floppy disk, you wouldn't be able to use it, right? Or on a hard disk, or even on a CD. Very few computers anymore have CDs. So we have these little flash drives. You know what? That could be replaced. But when you have physical paper, it doesn't disintegrate.
That's true.
File,
I was just gonna say, passwords change. I mean, every month and a half I get something from, the bank. Hey, you got to change your passwords. I mean, just stuff like that you need to know, it seems like.
Yes. So I think, what people would call old school works the best in this situation. Have a physical copy. If you want to have it on a flash drive or whatever as well, great. But look at that every few years to say, okay, is this still the right technology to have this thing on? So I think that that's the beginning. Let's start with the easy stuff, because that's easy. Right. Then you can start to talk about, well, if I was, incapacitated or I had mobility issues, where would I want to live? What would I want? And again, that's today. In 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you may change your mind, because now you're living it, and you might have thought you would want one thing, and in fact you want something else. The number of people who have said to me, they'll take me out of my house in a pine box, who ended up in retirement residences, there's a lot of them, because when they said they'll take me out in a pine box, their health was good. They didn't realize the challenges they were facing. And as they saw that, you know what, really, this is not the best. Oh, I've got stairs. I can't get up and down my stairs. Oh, if I stay in my home, I'm socially isolated. I don't want that. So going through that situation may change, and having an open mind, an open plan is also going to be helpful, but getting it down for today. It's, it's better, great than perfect. So you have something.
As the parent, and maybe I guess as the kid, should I, tell them, well, hold want to tell you about my values. What I think is important. Philosophically, just in general. Is that a relevant conversation to have?
100%, because the truth is, as a child, I may want something for my parent. I may want them to live forever. But as the parent, they may say, look, I know if I'm in this situation where I would be on a ventilator and that was the only way I could survive, I wouldn't want it. I would want you to disconnect me. You have to go with the value of the person who is going to be receiving the care, and the opposite way too. If somebody feels like, due to their beliefs, their religious beliefs or whatever, I don't want to discontinue any kind of treatment. I want everything you can give me, because when God is ready for me, God will take me. And yet the child is thinking, I don't want to see my parents suffer. What if they're suffering? Can I let them suffer because that's what they want? It is a hard distinction, but really you have to go by what the person whose care is going to, who's going to be receiving the care, you have to go by their values. And I think that that's also another reason why this is important, because you don't want to be faced with a situation of an emergency and you think, oh, I don't know, we've never had this conversation. Would they want to be on a ventilator? Would they want a DNR? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? This way you could say, here, I don't even have to make the decision. Here's the decision that person already made. It's not for me to make. There you go. It takes that pressure off of whoever is the one who has to make those decisions if the decision is already made.
Yeah. There's an attorney in our office who I was talking to her about what we were doing, and she was in that situation with her mom, she said, and that they're actually making that decision, and an advance directive telling what they want, turned out to be a gift, because it wasn't, oh God, I have to decide whether to do this.
Right.
I'm following what they really wanted to do.
Yeah. Makes it a lot easier.
What about the sort of support network around the parents? I imagine, especially as you get older, you get more. Do they get involved in this, or do the children talk to them, or do they fit into this conversation?
So I think that health professionals really can be very instrumental, because sometimes people will listen to their health professional more than their child. And, they're the expert. So sometimes engaging a health professional, like, let's say you think that your parents shouldn't be driving anymore. For you to say, Mom or Dad, I don't think you should be driving, is one thing. When a doctor or a nurse practitioner says you shouldn't be driving, they'll listen. Or the Department of Transportation, or whoever it is that they see as the expert. It would be a lot, not that it would be easier for them not to drive, but to take that on, as opposed to a child saying you shouldn't be driving. Yeah. Also, in terms of the health issues, if you're not well versed in some of them, bringing in a health provider can give you answers to, what is this going to look like? How is this going to play out? How is this going to affect my parent? How is it going to affect our life as a family? Sometimes having that information can also help you make better decisions. Now, certain things like dementia, in every single person, it's different. So you can't, there's no script, but at least if you have resources, you can go to the Alzheimer's Society and they'll give you a lot of information, if that's what it is. Heart and stroke will give you a lot of information. Diabetes will give you a lot of information, so that you feel like you have what you need to make informed decisions, that you're not just Googling. Dr. Google said, but again, I think that bringing people in terms of the legalities, for sure, go to your lawyer, find out, what do you need to have for a power of attorney, a living will, your will, or whatever else it is that you need. Get legal advice. If you have questions about your financial situation, your investments, whatever, go to your financial advisor. Get all of the people who are supporting you, to live the life that you're living, to have it all together, so that when you're sitting down and saying, well, I think in 5 years when I'm retired, I'm going to have this pension. So I will have this money coming in, or I'll have this investment income, or I'm going to lose this income. If you're not 100% sure of what that is, gather that information and then have it, at a meeting. As I said, it doesn't have to be one and done. You can
Right.
have a number of different segments to that meeting.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking as you're talking. This is probably not a single conversation.
No, it's not.
An ongoing one. And is it common, do you see, or should it be? I don't know, that one of the children sort of becomes the point person? Because you talk about all these things to have and to know, and they change. And can it be too many cooks spoil the pot if all the kids are trying to do it?
Yes. So one of the things that I think is important is for the siblings, if there's more than one child, to sit down and say, what do you feel most comfortable? Are you more comfortable with the healthcare? Are you more comfortable with the property side? Are you comfortable making appointments and going to appointments? Are you comfortable looking at the finances? Whatever that is. And if you can come to an agreement, that's the best scenario, to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, and everybody's comfortable. And that the person that is doing the hands-on care will say, has the ability to say to the other siblings, you know what, I need a break now. I've been doing it. I need a break. I need one of you to step in so I can go on vacation, or I can do whatever it is. So again, it's asking for what you need and having everybody realize that, again, this is today's plan. I may need help. I may have to switch. I may need to do something else. The other thing is, in terms of healthcare, a lot of places only want one point of contact. They don't want to have to wait for 3 people. So that's one thing that I learned in terms of power of attorney, is that you have a choice of saying Joe and Mary, or Joe or Mary. And it's really important to have that distinction. If you want to have everybody's input, then use the words and. But if it's okay, if you trust each other, and let's say somebody is living out of town and you have the one child that's living in town, and you trust that child to make those decisions, then if you have or, then any one person can make those decisions. And I think that's an important thing to speak about within your family.
Yeah. It reminds me, I used to do some stuff with healthcare, and one of the things that people don't know is that HIPAA doesn't just allow doctors or insurance companies to talk to the kid just because they're the kid, and and they need to get it. They need to get it in writing that they're allowed to even know what the insurance covers.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of leads to you. As an aging advisor, how do you get involved? If I come to you and I say, okay, here's the problem. My sister's doing that, my brother's doing that, my mom and dad are doing that, and we just can't seem to get going here, or we started and now we don't know how to finish it. Where do you come in?
So what I can help with is facilitation, because again, when you have an objective third party I have no agenda. I'm not going to tell you your plan is good, your plan is bad, if it's your plan and it works. So the idea is to have a third person or an objective party come in and say, all right, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? With no filter, and just get everything down, get everything on paper, and find out, what is it that you agree on? What is it that you don't agree on? And a lot of times it is the parents saying, I'm good, I don't need this. And the kids saying, oh yeah, well, you leave the stove on, or you don't have food in the fridge, or your mail's unopened. Or the opposite, the parents are saying, we need help. And the kids are like, no, 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 you're good. You're good. You're good. So sometimes you need somebody who can say, all right, let's look at the situation from all sides. It's really, I don't want to say referee. I'm going to say a coach. I'm going to say it's a coach to say, this is the structure, and to bring structure to it. Because what you don't want is bickering and fighting, and then nobody wants to sit down at the table together. You want somebody to make sure that everybody is listened to and respected, and that you can come away at the end of it with that tangible plan. And sometimes you need a third person for that.
Yeah, well, in your case, you know where the stuff is hidden. You know how, you can tell someone, well, this is how you can find someone's prescriptions. This is how you can find these things. They're Medicare. A lot of people just, as much as not wanting to, I have no idea where to go to get this information.
And that's the truth too, is that there's resources out there, as I was saying, that can help you to put that plan together that you may not even realize are out there. There's government programs, there's private programs, there's tons of information, but if you don't know where to look for it, it can be very challenging. Definitely can.
Oh yeah. Wow. Well, we shot through 30 minutes. That was quick. This was really good. This was really, really important stuff, and stuff that it's easy to turn your head away and say, well, we'll do that next year. But you don't know what's going to happen next year, before next year. So I really, really think this is important. And before we go, I want to make sure that you can give everyone listening your contact information if they have more questions.
Sure,
and
no
if we missed a point and you've been saying, Steve, I wanted to say this, and you didn't, do that now.
Sure. So I have a website. It's www.talkaboutaging.com, because that's what we need to do. And I am more than happy to direct you to resources, help you out, answer questions. And it's just Janice at talkaboutaging.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, just for sitting down to talk with us. You make important issues really understandable. And that's a skill.
And it's important, and it is important. And as I said to you earlier, I thank you for bringing this out into the open, because it's not a subject that people generally think, hey, I need to sit down with my family and figure out what to do if challenges occur.
Yep, exactly. So thanks again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And everyone else, thank you for joining us again. If anyone has further questions today's topic, obviously you can get a hold of Janice, as she has told you, or you can post it here and we can help you get connected with Janice. So until next time, stay safe, stay happy,